investment banking.
I do think that any kind of unrest or disruption in the system does create opportunity. So there's no question there's a chilling effect on outside investors who are less comfortable with risk appetite and with local conditions. There are local markets that really are relatively underserved. And because of that, I think there's really great opportunity for both entrepreneurs and investors here in the MENA region. Well, I do think that there's still some education that needs to happen. I think we talked this morning earlier at the conference about regulatory regimes, the fact that it still takes longer, it's a more complex process to set up a company here than in some other parts of the world. I also think that, as we talked about in the panel just now, there's also a very different profile of investments in general. I think what I've noticed here is that there's still many people who have very strong entrepreneurial spirit, and they've identified a market need, but I think the trick is to identify a market need that will scale. So it's one thing to have a sort of a lifestyle business, if you will, but I think for an investor, of course, we're hoping for outsized returns, and there you really need to have something that's going to scale beyond a small market. You know, people always say that you invest first and foremost in the team or the entrepreneur and his or her colleagues. I think that sometimes there's an overemphasis on the ideas. Now, ideas are important. Intellectual property, especially if you have a patent, is very, very important. And in certain industries, such as pharmaceuticals or medical technology, sort of my area of expertise, there's really no substitute for IP, intellectual property. That said, ideas themselves, as someone said earlier this morning, are kind of open source. They're available to anybody. Really, it's the execution that matters. And so often, if you have an entrepreneur who may be very smart in a sort of book sense, but they don't strike me as having the fire in the belly to go out there and no matter what it takes, doing what's necessary, then that's a little bit of a yellow flag. I think that certainly digitization and the fact that it's so much more lightweight and rapid now to scale, to grow and scale a startup. It used to be you have to build the whole stack yourself. Now there are software libraries out there. There's existing marketplaces. There are channels such as the Apple Store or Google Play or whatever. I think that there are ways to very quickly assemble essentially a virtual team. It could be spread all over the world. And thanks to collaboration tools like Trello, like Skype, like Google Hangouts, Uber Conference, you can actually really work together, sometimes without even meeting somebody until maybe a few months or even the next year. So certainly team and task collaboration tools like Trello or Basecamp are very important. I think that from a funding point of view, certainly platforms and marketplaces like AngelList or Gust are really great, a way to matchmake between entrepreneurs and angel investors like myself or my colleagues.
Investment banking.